ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge in Allah from Shaitan, the rejected one. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. With the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. I greet you with a universal greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are continuing with Surah Nisa. We are looking at section 5 and section 6. We're looking at verses 26 onwards. And to begin with, we'll read A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Allah does wish to make clear to you and to show you the ordinance of those before you, and He does wish to turn to you in mercy, and Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. Allah does wish to turn to you, but the wish of those who follow their lust is that you should turn away from Him, far, far away. So here we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been giving us advice relating to inheritance, relating to orphans, relating to women. In the last few verses from the beginning of the surah, since we've been reading it. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He wishes guidance for us and He wishes to give us mercy by us following His laws and applying His laws in our life, relating to inheritance, relating to our relationships, relating to orphans. Then we will have the mercy of Allah upon us. But the wish of those without faith is that we follow our desires. And when we follow the desires, we follow the bidding of shaitan, and we create injustices in our life because of not following the balance as laid down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So reading further, Allah says, Allah does wish to lighten your difficulties, for man was created weak in flesh. O you believe, eat not up your property among yourselves in vanities, but let there be among you traffic and trade by mutual goodwill. No kill or destroy yourselves, for verily Allah has been to you most merciful. So Allah says here that when we deal with each other financially, that we should have, Allah says, do not consume, eat not up your property among yourselves in vanities. We should not waste the money, the money that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, the wealth, the resources that He has given us. Nor should we consume it among ourselves by bribery, by corruption, by injustice in society, by committing fraud, by gambling. Riba is a big thing, that we should not consume riba, and in so doing we basically consume wealth that is not rightfully ours. And Allah says further that, but let there be among you traffic and trade by mutual goodwill. But instead of you gaining wealth and property by unjust means, you should rather gain property by traffic and trade by mutual goodwill, that you do trade among yourself between the different members of society, and you come to a mutual agreement among you that is fair and just and within the bounds of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thinking about the Islamic brotherhood rather than your personal greed. And if you do that, Allah says that this will enhance the society, and Allah encourages this in this verse. He says again, eat not up your property among yourself in vanities, but let there be among you traffic and trade by mutual goodwill. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, and do not kill yourselves. And this killing yourself, some have said that it refers to do not commit suicide. So suicide is a serious wrongdoing. And others say that in terms of the context of this ayah, we see that it refers to by you consuming your wealth in vanities, you would not be enhancing the society. By you using your wealth for bribery, corruption, fraudulent dealing, in the major corruption, you eat up the property of others, and by so doing, you destroy the society, you destroy the infrastructure, the poor, the weak, and oppressed in the society lose out on the basic essentials, especially the poor. We see that they do not get their basic necessities, and as a result, it can create uprising and a total anarchy and destruction in society. So Allah says, do not kill or destroy yourself. It can be done, it can be looked at literally, or it can be looked at in terms of the context of the ayah, where it refers to don't destroy your society by being selfish and corrupt. For verily Allah has been to you most merciful. If any do that in rancor and injustice, soon shall we cast them into the fire, and verily it is easy for Allah. If you look at verse 31, Allah says, if you but eschew the most heinous of things which you are forbidden to do, we shall expel out of you all the evil in you, and admit you to a gate of great honor. So yeah, Allah is saying that if we stay away from the great sins that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed, sins that, for example, that are laid out in the Quran, like adultery, theft, and the greatest of all sins, shirk, and there are others that are mentioned in the Quran, then if you are genuine and sincere in doing the right thing, then you have certain weaknesses and oversights or small faults that you have, Allah will forgive those small faults. We look at the cross reference for this ayah, Surah 53, verse 32. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Those who avoid the great sins, الذين يجتنبون كبائر الإثم والفواحش, and shameful deeds, the immoral acts, only following into small faults, إلا اللمم, although they may sometimes stumble, as others said, verily thy Lord is ample in forgiveness. He knows you well when he brings you out of the earth and when you are hidden in your mother's wombs. Therefore justify not yourselves. He knows best who it is that guards against evil. So we see here that this verse shows that Allah, if you stay away from your great sins and immoralities, and you sometimes may stumble, you fall into small faults, because nobody is perfect, then Allah may, out of His mercy, forgive you, provided you are sincere, provided that you are sincere. Allah says, Allah knows those who have taqwa, those who guard against evil. So your sincerity is of utmost importance. And Allah is showing His mercy here that if you stay away from the major wrongs, then He will overlook your small faults. And in no wise covered those things in which Allah has bestowed His gifts more freely on some of you than on others. To men is allotted what they earn, and to women what they earn. But ask Allah of His bounty, for Allah has full knowledge of all things. So here Allah says that you must be content with what you have. You shouldn't be envious and look at what some people have that is more than you have. You should not look at the wealth that others have that is greater than yours. Because there's a beautiful hadith that says that if you look at somebody that has more than you, then you should look at others who have less than you. So in so doing, you will be content with what you've got. There's a beautiful saying that says also, he is not rich who desires much, only he who can do with little. So we have to realize that we shouldn't hanker after the materialistic things of this life and feel envious of those who have it. That is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's gift for them, and it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's test for them. And they must make sure that they use it in the best way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. And similarly, what we have is a test for us, and we should use it for the best for ourselves and the society. And verse 33, Allah says, to benefit everyone, we have appointed sharers and heirs to property left by parents and relatives. To those also to whom your right hand was pledged, give them their portion, for truly Allah is witness to all things. So here Allah is also saying that in terms of wealth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed inheritance. Allah says from what He has given you, there is a share for parents and relatives, and for those whom your right hand was pledged refers to your wives that you have taken a mutual covenant from. And this verse highlights again the importance of distributing our inheritance so that everybody is taken care of and no injustices are made to disadvantage them in any way. We'll continue at section 6 now. So looking at verse 34, we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts off by saying, men are the protectors and maintainers of women, because Allah has given the one more strength than the other, and because they support them from their means. So it is clearly stated in the Quran that the man, the husband, is responsible for the financial means of the wife and the family. It is a duty of the husband to look after the family's financial needs. So he must go out and work and look after, bring finance into the house to look after the family as such. Therefore, the righteous women are devoutly obedient and guard in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. And as a result of woman acknowledging that it is the husband's primary duty to go out and work, then she, as a result, will have time to nurture and look after the upbringing of the kids and make sure that they grow up with righteousness and piety. And she would look after the belongings of the home, and she will also make sure that she guard the chastity in the husband's absence while he's gone out to work. However, if you look at today's society where it becomes difficult for the husband to meet the financial needs of the home, then women do go out and work. But it is important that they realize that the upbringing of the children is of primary importance and takes precedence over material means and material well-being. So they should make a shura among themselves and come to an arrangement as to how they can arrange for the two of them to bring up the family in a righteous way. Because Allah talks about the husband and the wife as murabbi, in a sense that they nurture and nourish the children. So if both of them are gone out to work and they do not spend time to nurture and nourish and bring up the children properly, then we see that it can create an injustice in society. That's why Allah says, if you look at the dua, we say, Rabbi irhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. Oh Allah, have mercy upon them as they nourished me, kama rabbayani saghira, that they nurtured me in childhood. So it is a duty of both parents that they should nurture the children and they should do what is best to make sure that happens. If you look at this verse, it's saying that the man is a primary breadwinner and it is his duty to bringing the finances. So it is a wife's duty to guard in the husband's absence what Allah would have a guard. So it is a beautiful ayah that shows the relationship between a husband and a wife. Then we read further, Allah says, on those part, as to those women on whose part you fear disloyalty and ill conduct, admonish them first, next refuse to share their beds, and last beat them lightly. But if they return to obedience, seek not against them means of annoyance, for Allah is most high, great above you all. So here Allah speaks about that if you fear disloyalty and ill conduct from the wife, the Arabic of the verse says, وَاللَّاتِ تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ. So if you fear nushuz, now nushuz doesn't refer to a small breach or a small disagreement in a marriage. It refers to a major breach in a marriage. Nushuz will refer to something like sexual immodesty, immoral conduct, flirting, things that bring about a shaking of the basis of the marriage bond. So if you fear immoral conduct, for example, between in your with your wife, then Allah says first admonish them first. So speak to them, give them advice, advise them as to what is best to do so that she can consider and see what she should do in terms of restructuring her life so that she can preserve her marital bond. And then, if that doesn't work, Allah says next, refuse to share their beds. So, if that doesn't work, then the husband can refuse intimacy with the wife, separate from her temporarily so that she can realize that this is a serious matter and she should really consider uh, her behavior to improve on the situation. And then Allah says, last, but if that doesn't work, وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. Daraba refers to hit or strike, and Allah says, as a last resort, beat them lightly. So, if you look at this word daraba, there's two opinions relating to how this can be translated. The one says, beat them lightly. And if you look at the traditional scholars, they've said that daraba doesn't mean give any open license to any husband to hit his wife. There's no condonation of wife battery in Islam. Spousal abuse is not acceptable and allowed in Islam. Thus, daraba refers to the fact that if you spoke to the wife and that didn't work because of some nushuz, a major breach in the marital bond, and then if she doesn't take your nasiya, your advice, then separate the beds, second step, and then she doesn't still realize, then you could give her like a shaking, a strike. And they say the strike should be like a symbolical nature. If you look at the Prophet ﷺ, he never hit his wives, any of them. And this shows the sunnah of the Prophet in dealing with one's wife, that you should not hit one's wife. But and some say also that if you strike her, it should be like a tap, like how you tap a child to say, don't do this. In a sense that that strike doesn't leave any mark. It is symbolical of a shaking to say, this is a serious matter and you should change your ways. So that's the one explanation of daraba. The other explanation of daraba is some say that the word daraba doesn't necessarily mean strike as in literal strike, but rather this refers to daraba in the sense of engage in doing what your best, your utmost to bring about peace and reconciliation in a marriage. So daraba means to engage in bringing about this peace and peace and security in a marriage. Others say that daraba, because daraba is such a wide understanding, daraba can refer to separate from the wife, in the sense that this is the first step towards divorce. Others say daraba itself means divorce. And daraba can also mean pressurize the wife to say that this is of a serious matter, so change your ways or else it's going to lead to divorce. So then the two meanings is, the one says it's literally beat the wife, and not beat in the sense of spousal abuse, but rather a tap or a shaking to make her realize it's of a serious nature. And the second translation or explanation of daraba means to separate, so that this is going to be a divorce. This is the two ways in which we look at our daraba, and in both cases it shows that this is the final straw in bringing about an end of the marriage. So if there's serious no shoes and there's no changing in the relation, the behavior of the wife, then the wife can and then the husband can separate from the wife and cause a divorce if it doesn't work in either respect. Now, what if the husband has no shoes and the husband is somebody that is doing something that's seriously wrong? Then we can look at a cross reference. We look at Surah 4, verse 128. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if a wife fears nushuz, cruelty or desertion on her husband's part, so if she fears nushuz on her husband's part, there is no blame on them if they arrange an amicable settlement between themselves, and such settlement is best, even though men's souls are swayed by greed. And if you do good and practice self-restraint, Allah is well acquainted with all that you do. So even if there's no shoes and you change your ways, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring about a better situation in your marriage. We read in verse 35, Allah says, if you fear a breach between them twain, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ شِقَاقًا بَيْنِهِمَا, if you fear a shiqaq between the two, that is the marital um, partners, if you fear a breach between them twain, فَبَعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهَا, appoint two arbiters, one from his family and the other from hers. If they wish for peace, Allah will cause their reconciliation. For Allah has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. So here Allah uses the word shiqaq, but if you look at verse 34, Allah used the word nushuz. So we've just highlighted that nushuz refers to major breach like immorality and flirting, which would tantamount to an uprising in a marriage. But shikak refers to the daily irritations that a person has in his marriage. So if you have a case where you have shikak, where there is a disagreement, misunderstanding, irritation that has grown serious and is causing problems in a marital bond, and Allah says, فَبَعَثُوا Hakama min ahlihi wa hakama min ahliha. Appoint two arbiters. One arbiter from the husband's side, the husband can appoint somebody to represent him, and the wife can represent somebody to represent her, and the two can speak. And if they speak, and they can iron out the differences they can iron out the irritations and the misunderstandings that they have, because the arbiter can be more rational and understand the needs of the person is representing. And instead of getting angry and fighting among themselves personally, the representatives can meet and create a mutual understanding between them, which can bring about a mending of the marriage tie. So the two arbiters can meet and they can see what they can do to bring about a settlement in this marriage and bring about peace in this disagreement that a couple are having. If they wish for peace, Allah will cause their reconciliation, for Allah has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. So if your intention is peace, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring about a better situation. Then we read from verse 36, Allah says, here now the topic changes in verse 36, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about spending and doing good in the society. And Allah says, serve Allah and join not any partners with Him, and do good to parents, kinsfolk, which refers to family, orphans, those in need, neighbors who are near, and neighbors who are strangers, the companion by your side, which is your friend, the wayfarer you meet, the traveler, and what your right hand possess, those that are slaves in the society or the captives of war in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So you give them a child, you do good to them, and you basically make everybody feel good. So doing good in society is a very important thing as a Muslim. As a believer, one will do good in society to enhance the brotherhood and bring about peace and reconciliation among its members. For Allah loves not the arrogant and vainglorious. Allah doesn't love those who are arrogant and try to show that they are better than others, nor those who are niggardly. And Allah does not love those who are stingy or enjoin niggardliness on others, those who enjoin stinginess on others, or hide the bounties which Allah has bestowed upon them, or they do not use the gifts, the expertise, the resources that Allah has given them to help others. For we have prepared for those who resist faith a punishment that steeps them in contempt, nor those who spend on their substance to be seen of men. But have no faith in Allah and the last day. If any take the evil one for the intimate, what a dreadful intimate he is. So Allah also says that when we spend, it should not be to show off, to show others that we are giving in the cause of Allah. What you spend of your wealth and your resources is to bring you near to Allah. It's not about showing others that you are doing good deeds. So again, the motivation is towards Allah and doing good. And that is important that we cleanse ourselves from this envy, as mentioned in the previous verse, and ostentation, and our pride and vainglorious attitude, and our attitude of showing off. May Allah make us pure and purify our intentions so that we do everything to please Him and no other. And what burden weighed on them if they had faith in Allah and the last day, and they spent out of what Allah has given them for sustenance? For Allah has full knowledge of them. Allah is never unjust in the least degree. If there is any good done, He doubles it and gives from His own presence a great reward. How then, if we brought from each people a witness, and we brought thee as a witness against these people, on that day those who reject faith and disobey the Rasul will wish that the earth were made one with them, but never will they hide a single fact from Allah. So Allah highlights here that the Prophet ﷺ will be brought as a witness against the people that he came to, and on the day of judgment those who did wrong will be embarrassed and wish that they did better in this earth. And may Allah protect us from this, and may He make it such that we use the resources we have for the benefit of society. We did section 5 and 6 of Surah Nisa, where we discussed the importance of the marital bond, and if there's discord in a marriage, how to deal with it, if there's gross breach of conduct, and if there is other breaches of conduct which are not as serious as immoral conduct, how to deal with it. And we talked about doing good in society and spending and not being selfish, but rather use our resources for the benefit of society. With that, we will conclude today. I greet you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر